I didn't see it coming. That's the part that gnawed at me most, not the betrayal itself, but how blind I'd been. The evening it hit me, I was sprawled on my couch, thumbs swiping mindlessly through my phone, when Mara's Instagram story popped up. A photo of her hand laced with Ethan's, his stupid smirk half cropped out of the frame, captioned my forever. My chest tightened, but it wasn't the image that broke me. It was the timestamp. 6 months ago. 6 months ago, I'd been strapped to a hospital bed, tubes snaking out of me, fighting to breathe after surgery ripped my life apart. And they'd been starting there forever, while I was still begging nurses for more painkillers. I dropped the phone like it burned. My hands shook, not with tears, not yet, but with something darker, something that coiled tight in my gut and wouldn't let go. Mara had been there, hadn't she? Sitting by my bedside, squeezing my hand, promising she'd never let me down. "You're my rock," I'd rasped once, voice cracked from the ventilator's aftermath. She'd smiled, all dimples and warmth, and said, "Always." And Ethan, God, Ethan. The man who'd sworn he loved me, who'd kissed my forehead before every doctor's visit, only to sneak off and cheat while I was too weak to notice. I'd forgiven him once, after the first affair came out, because I'd been desperate to believe he'd change. But this? This was a double blade, Mara and Ethan, carving me up together. I didn't call her. Didn't text him. Didn't scream into the void like I wanted to. I just sat there, staring at the wall, letting the silence stretch until it felt like a living thing pressing against my ribs. My eyes drifted to the diamond necklace on the coffee table. His last gift before everything fell apart. He'd slid it around my neck 2 years ago, whispering, "You're my everything." I'd worn it through every hospital visit, clutching it like a lifeline. Now it mocked me, glinting in the dim light, a relic of lies I'd been too naive to see through. The old Celine would have cried. She'd have dialed Mara, voice trembling, begging for an explanation. She'd have let Ethan's charm talk her back into his orbit. But that Celine died somewhere between the operating table and the rehab ward. This version of me, this jagged, hollowed-out thing, didn't break. She sharpened. I picked up the necklace, the chain cold against my fingers, and turned it over in my hand. It wasn't a keepsake anymore. It was a weapon. I grabbed my phone again, ignoring the notifications piling up. Work emails, a reminder about my next physical therapy session. I pulled up Mara's story one more time, zoomed in on Ethan's hand. That stupid silver ring he always wore, the one I'd teased him about because it looked like a knockoff from a pawn shop. It was him, no doubt. I scrolled back through her posts, piecing it together. A beach trip 5 months ago, his shadow in the background. A coffee date 4 months back, his jacket slung over her chair. They hadn't even bothered to hide it well. My jaw clenched so hard my teeth ached. Why hadn't they told me? Why the secrecy? If they'd come clean, I might have hated them, but I could have walked away clean. Instead, they'd let me stumble into it like some pathetic fool. Months after the fact. That's when the real question hit me. How long had they been laughing behind my back? How many times had Mara hugged me, her perfume still clinging to his skin? The thought made my stomach lurch, but I swallowed it down. No tears. No weakness. Not anymore. I opened my laptop, fingers hovering over the keys. Part of me wanted to dig, find every photo, every text, every shred of their little love story. But what would that prove? I already knew enough. Mara, my best friend since college, the one who'd planned my birthday parties and held my hair back when I drank too much. Ethan, the man I'd built a life with, the one I'd pictured in a tux at some vague future wedding. Together, they'd torched it all. And for what? A cheap thrill? A ring he'd probably picked out on a whim? My phone buzzed. A text from Mara. "Hey, can we talk? I owe you an explanation." I stared at it, my thumb twitching over the screen. An explanation. Like that could stitch me back together. Like her words could erase the image of them tangled up while I was hooked to an 4 drip. I didn't reply. I deleted the message, then blocked her number. Ethan didn't even try, coward to the end. Good. Let them wonder. Let them sweat. I stood, pacing the small living room, the necklace still dangling from my fist. My reflection caught in the window, pale, sharp-edged, a stranger's face. I stopped, holding the diamonds up to the light. They sparkled, cold and perfect, just like the plan forming in my head. I wasn't going to confront them. Not yet. Confrontation was messy, loud beneath me now. No, ide bait. I'd watch. And when the moment came, I'd make them feel every ounce of what they'd done to me. Not with shouts or tears, but with something they'd never see coming. I tossed the necklace back onto the table, its clatter the only sound in the room. My heart thudded, steady now, a drumbeat to a war I hadn't started but would damn sure finish. They thought they'd broken me. They thought I'd stay quiet because I was weak. They were wrong. Silence wasn't surrender, it was my first move. 3 months after that night on my couch, the envelope arrived. Ivory cardstock, embossed with gold lettering, Mara and Ethan's names entwined like some smug declaration of victory. Their engagement party invite landed on my doorstep like a grenade with the pin half pulled. I stood there, staring at it in my hands, the weight of it pressing against my fingers. They'd actually done it, locked in their betrayal with a ring and a date. Viridian Heights rooftop, Saturday, 7 p.m. A +1 box I didn't bother checking. My first instinct was to shred it, burn it, let it disappear. But then I stopped. A better idea slithered into my mind, cold and deliberate. I RSVP'd yes that same afternoon. No hesitation, no second thoughts. I typed my name into their little online form, hit submit, and watched the confirmation ping back. They'd see it. They'd know I was coming. And they'd squirm, wondering what I'd do. Good. Let them twist. I wasn't. The broken Celine they'd left behind in that hospital bed. I was something else now, something they wouldn't recognize until it was too late. The next few weeks became a mission. I didn't waste time wallowing or doubting. I had a purpose, and it fueled me like nothing else ever had. Ethan was sloppy, he always had been. Back when we were together, he'd used the same password for everything. Voss 1989. Idiot. I'd teased him about it once, and he'd laughed, saying no one would ever care enough to hack him. Guess he didn't count on me. I logged into his email first, scrolling through months of mundane garbage, work memos, spam, bar receipts. Then I hit gold. A confirmation from Crescent Bay Inn, dated last week. 2 nights, King Suite, charged to his card. My pulse quickened. Mara didn't travel for work. He wasn't alone. I dug deeper. His texts synced to his cloud. Another careless mistake. Messages to someone named Chris popped up, flirty and reckless. Missed you last night, one read. Drink soon. Another, she's clueless, don't worry. My stomach twisted, but I didn't flinch. Chris wasn't Mara, I'd have recognized her number. Ethan was still the same snake, slithering from one betrayal to the next. I screenshotted everything, every damning word, and moved to his bank app. A bar tab from 3 nights ago, $87 at some dive called the Rusty Anchor. Alone? Doubtful. I printed it all, receipts, texts, the works, and slid them into a sleek black envelope. Evidence, neat and tidy, ready to detonate. The dress came next. I didn't want just anything, I needed a statement. I walked into a boutique downtown, the kind of place I'd never have stepped into before, and found it. Red silk, cut sharp and low, clinging like it was made for me. The salesgirl raised an eyebrow when I tried it on, but I didn't care. I stood in front of the mirror, the fabric hugging every curve, and saw someone new staring back. Not the frail girl from the hospital, not the fool who'd trusted them. This was Celine Harper, unyielding, untouchable. I bought it on the spot, no regrets. Back home, I laid it out on my bed, the black envelope beside it. The necklace came last, Ethan's old gift, the diamonds catching the light like tiny knives. I hadn't worn it since we'd split, but I slipped it on now, testing its weight around my neck. It felt right, like armor. I'd wear it to their party, let it gleam under the rooftop lights, a silent reminder of every promise he'd broken. They'd see it and remember. I wanted them to. The night before the party, I sat at my kitchen table, running through it all in my head. I'd walk in head high, the dress and necklace doing half the work. I'd watch their faces, catch every flicker of panic. Mara would try to play nice, she always did, all soft smiles and fake concern. Ethan would dodge me, his cowardice on full display. I wouldn't say much. I didn't need to. The envelope would speak for me, loud and clear, when the moment hit. I pictured it, Mara's hands trembling, Ethan's voice cracking as he tried to explain. The guest's whispers spreading like wildfire. My exit clean and final. My phone buzzed, snapping me out of it. A new email. Reminder, Mara and Ethan's engagement celebration. I almost laughed. They had no idea what was coming. I'd been invisible to them. For months, a ghost they'd written off. They thought I'd stay quiet forever, lick my wounds in the dark. Wrong. Silence wasn't weakness, it was strategy. Every step I'd taken since that night on the couch had built to this. I wasn't just showing up to their party. I was crashing it. I stood, folding the envelope into my clutch, the paper crisp against my fingers. My reflection caught in the hallway mirror as I passed, red dress, diamonds, eyes like steel. I didn't recognize myself, and that was the point. They'd taken everything from me, my trust, my peace, my old life, and left me to rot. But I hadn't rotted. Ide sharpanat. Saturday night, they'd see what they'd made. They'd feel it. And when I walked away, they'd be the ones left broken. I slept better that night than I had in months, the plan a steady hum in my chest. The war wasn't over, not yet. But the first shot? That was mine. The night of the engagement party, I stepped out of the car and onto the curb outside Viridian Heights, like I was walking onto a battlefield. The red silk dress clung to me, the necklace glinted under the streetlights, and my heels clicked with every step, a rhythm that matched the steady thud of my heart. I'd rehearsed this moment in my head 100 times, but now it was real. The rooftop loomed above, a glow of lights and chatter spilling over the edge. I took a breath, straightened my spine, and rode the elevator up alone, the black envelope tucked in my clutch like a loaded gun. The doors slid open, and there it was, their perfect little world. White tablecloths, champagne flutes, a crowd of strangers in suits and dresses, all orbiting Mara and Ethan like they were royalty. I spotted her first, near the bar, laughing too loud in a cream-colored gown that screamed bride-to-be. Ethan stood a few feet away, tugging at his tie, his back to me. My stomach didn't drop. My hands didn't shake. I felt nothing but the cold, clear focus I'd honed over the past 3 months. I stepped into the room, and heads turned. A woman in a sequin dress whispered to her date. A guy by the hors d'oeuvres table froze mid-bite. I didn't flinch. I let them look. The dress demanded it, the necklace amplified it, and I carried myself like I belonged. Mara saw me next. Her laugh cut off mid-note, her eyes widening as they locked on mine. She recovered fast, pasting on that dimpled smile I used to trust, and hurried over, heels wobbling slightly. "Celine," she said, voice too bright, too brittle. "You came." I wasn't sure you would." She reached for a hug, but I sidestepped, keeping my distance. Her arms hovered awkwardly before dropping. "Wouldn't miss it," I replied, my tone smooth, unreadable. Her smile faltered, and I saw it, the flicker of doubt. She didn't know what I was here for, and it ate at her. Perfect. Ethan turned then, catching sight of me over her shoulder. His jaw tightened, and he adjusted his tie again, a nervous tic I remembered too well. He didn't approach, just stared, like he could will me out of existence. I met his gaze, held it, and let the necklace catch the light. His eyes flicked to it, and I swear I saw him flinch. Good. Let him remember. I moved past Mara, weaving through the crowd. A few people nodded at me, polite but curious, probably wondering who I was. I didn't care. I wasn't here for them. I grabbed a glass of champagne from a passing tray, sipping it slowly, letting the bubbles fizz against my tongue while I watched. Mara hovered nearby, pretending to chat with guests but stealing glances at me. Ethan stayed rooted, his fake smile slipping every time our eyes met. They were unraveling already, and I hadn't even started. The DJ switched to a slower song, and couples drifted to the dance floor. I stayed put, leaning against a high table, the clutch resting beside me. Inside it, the envelope waited. My ace, my blade. I'd timed it out. The toast was next, the moment they'd all gather, glasses raised, to cheer their sham of a future. That's when I'd strike. Until then, I played my part, calm, collected, a ghost in red silk they couldn't ignore. Mara tried again, sidling up with a glass of her own. "It's good to see you," she said, softer now, like she could rewind us to the days when I'd have believed her. "I've missed you, Celine." I wanted to explain. "No need." I cut in, my voice flat. I tilted my head, studying her. "You look happy. That's enough." Her mouth opened, then closed, and I saw the guilt flicker again. She wanted absolution, a quick fix to ease her conscience. She wasn't getting it from me. Ethan finally moved, weaving through the crowd to join us. Up close, he looked worse, bags under his eyes, a sheen of sweat on his forehead. "Celine," he said, forcing a grin. "Glad you could make it." His voice was too loud, too fake, and I almost laughed. "Wouldn't miss it," I said again, letting the words hang. He shifted, glancing at Mara like she'd save him. She didn't. I sipped my champagne, letting the silence stretch, watching them squirm. They didn't know what I had planned, but they felt it, the weight of something coming. The DJ's mic crackled. "All right, folks, grab your drinks. It's time for the toast." The crowd shifted, gathering near the center where Ethan's dad stood, glass raised, beaming like this was his triumph too. Mara grabbed Ethan's arm, pulling him forward, but her eyes darted back to me. I stayed where I was, clutch in hand, counting the seconds. Ethan's dad started talking, some droning speech about love and commitment. I tuned it out, my focus narrowing to Mara's forced smile, Ethan's restless fidgeting. The envelope felt heavy in my grip, its edges sharp against my palm. This was it, the moment I'd built toward since that night on my couch. They thought they'd won, thought I'd fade away. They were wrong. The crowd raised their glasses, a murmur of cheers rippling through. I set my champagne down, straightened, and took a step forward. Mara's head snapped toward me, her smile freezing. Ethan followed her gaze, his hand tightening on his glass. I didn't rush. I didn't need to. Every eye would be on them soon enough, and I'd make sure they never forgot it. I slipped the envelope from my clutch, holding it lightly between my fingers. One move left. One perfect, devastating move. The rooftop buzzed with the clink of glasses and a chorus of cheers, but I barely heard it. My focus locked on Mara and Ethan, standing there in the spotlight of their own making, oblivious to the bomb I held in my hand. Ethan's dad finished his toast, voice thick with pride, and the crowd clapped, polite, predictable. I didn't clap. I moved. My heels clicked against the marble floor as I crossed the room, the black envelope light between my fingers but heavy with intent. Every step felt deliberate, like I was carving my own path through their perfect night. Mara saw me first. Her glass froze halfway to her lips, her eyes darting from my face to the envelope. Ethan turned a beat later, his grin slipping as I closed the distance. I stopped in front of them, the crowd's chatter fading to a hum behind me. Up close, Mara's makeup couldn't hide the strain in her expression, and Ethan's tie hung crooked, like he'd been tugging at it all night. I didn't say much, words were overrated now. I just smiled, slow and sharp, and held out the envelope to Mara. "For you," I said, my voice low, steady. "A wedding gift." Her hand hesitated, trembling slightly as she took it. Ethan's eyes narrowed, but he didn't move, not yet. I stepped back, folding my arms, and waited. She fumbled with the flap, her fingers clumsy under the weight of every gaze now shifting toward us. The paper rustled as she pulled out the stack, hotel receipts, screenshots, that damning bar tab. Her breath hitched, loud enough for me to hear, and her face drained of color. "What?" she started, but the words died as she scanned the dates, the names, the proof Ethan hadn't changed. The crowd didn't know yet, but they felt it, the air thickening, the tension snapping tight. Ethan lunged forward, reaching for the papers. "Give me that," he snapped, voice cracking, but Mara yanked them back, her eyes wild as she flipped through. "Crescent Bay Inn," she read aloud, barely a whisper. "Last week. Chris." She looked up at him, betrayal cutting through her shock. The whispers started then, rippling outward, guests craning their necks, sensing blood in the water. "Mara, it's not," Ethan stammered, but she cut him off, shoving the receipts at his chest. They fluttered to the floor, and a glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the marble with a sound. Like gunfire. Someone gasped. Someone else laughed, nervous and sharp. I didn't flinch. I just watched, the necklace cold against my skin, a silent witness to their unraveling. "This whole time?" Mara's voice rose, breaking. "You were still," she couldn't finish, her hands balling into fists. Ethan grabbed her arm, trying to pull her aside, but she jerked free, turning on him with a fury I recognized too well. The crowd parted, giving them space, and I saw it, the moment their perfect lie collapsed. Ethan's dad stood frozen, glass still raised, his pride curdling into confusion. Mara's mother rushed forward, hissing something I didn't catch. It didn't matter. My work was done. I turned, heels clicking again, and walked away. No rush, no glance back. The murmurs swelled behind me, a tidal wave of gossip I'd set loose, but I didn't need to see it play out. I'd seen enough. The elevator doors slid open as I reached them, and I stepped inside, the silence wrapping around me like a shield. The last thing I heard before they closed was Ethan shouting my name, raw, desperate, useless. I didn't answer. Downstairs, a black SUV waited, engine humming. I slid into the back seat, the leather cool against my legs, and handed the driver a slip of paper with the airstrip's address. "Let's go," I said, and he nodded, pulling away from Viridian Heights without a word. My clutch hit the seat beside me, the weight of the envelope gone, replaced by something lighter, freedom, maybe, or just the thrill of winning. I poured a glass of champagne from the bottle tucked in the console, the bubbles sharp and bright as I took a sip. My phone buzzed then, lighting up with Mara's name. I let it ring, watching the screen until it went to voicemail. Then another, Ethan this time. And another. 12 calls piled up by the time we hit the highway, each one a little more frantic. I played the first one from Mara, her voice thick with tears. Celine, please, I didn't know, he swore it was over, call me back. Delete. Ethan's next, all rage and bravado. You think you're clever? You're nothing, Celine, nothing. Delete. 8 crying for threats, all noise I didn't need. I silenced the phone mid-flight as the jet's engines roared to life, lifting me toward Callista Isle. The city shrank below me, a blur of lights I was leaving behind. I leaned back, glass in hand, and let the hum of the plane settle into my bones. They'd thought I'd break, thought I'd stay small and silent forever. But I'd turned that silence into something they couldn't dodge. A mirror held up to their lies, a blade slipped between their ribs. Mara's tears wouldn't save her. Ethan's anger wouldn't touch me. They'd built their castle on sand, and I'd kicked it down with one steady hand. I didn't smile, not yet. But the weight I'd carried for months, the ache of their betrayal, it was gone. I'd taken it back piece by piece, and now it was theirs to choke on. The jet climbed higher, and I sipped again, the taste of victory sharper than the champagne. The jet touched down on Callista Isle just as the sky bruised purple with the promise of dawn. I stepped onto the tarmac, the red silk dress still clinging to me, the necklace a faint weight around my throat. A driver waited, keys in hand, and drove me silently to the villa perched on the cliffs. I didn't look back as the airstrip faded behind me, just kept my eyes forward, fixed on the horizon where the sea met the sky. The war was over. I'd won. The villa's doors swung open, and I walked in, kicking off my heels the second I crossed the threshold. Barefoot, I padded across the cool tile to the terrace, the edge dropping off to waves crashing far below. I sank into a chair, pulling my legs up, and let the quiet settle around me. My phone stayed off, buried in my bag somewhere. I didn't need it, not yet. Mara and Ethan were a world away, drowning in the mess I'd left them in, and I was here, untouchable, free. I'd planned every move since that night on my couch 3 months ago. The RSVP, the dress, the envelope. But there'd been one last play, one I hadn't told anyone about. Before I'd walked into that party, I'd sent an email from a burner account, attaching those same receipts and texts to Chris's husband. I didn't know the guy, didn't need to. All I knew was Ethan's type, careless, cocky, thinking he'd never get caught. I'd hit send and let it go, a final spark to burn down whatever he had left. By now, Viridian Heights would be buzzing with it. Mara's humiliation, Ethan's lies, and a second betrayal ripping through his little side game. I didn't need to see it. I'd done enough. The sun peeked over the water, painting the sea gold, and I leaned back, exhaling a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. 3 months ago, I'd been a shell, shattered by surgery, by Ethan's cheating, by Mara's knife in my back. I'd sat in my apartment, staring at that necklace, feeling like the world had chewed me up and spit me out. Now I was whole, not the old Celine, not the naive one who'd trusted too much, but something new. Stronger. Sharper. They'd tried to bury me, but I'd clawed my way out, and I'd made them pay. I stood, walking to the terrace's edge, the necklace dangling in my hand. I'd worn it to the party as a weapon, a reminder of Ethan's broken promises glinting under their lights. It had done its job. I didn't need it anymore. I unclasped it, holding it up one last time. The diamonds caught the sunrise, flashing bright, and then I let it go. It spun through the air, a tiny comet, before vanishing into the waves below. No crash, no sound, just gone. Like them. Like the weight I'd carried too long. Back inside, I grabbed a mug and brewed coffee, the machine humming as the villa filled with the sharp, bitter scent. I took it to the terrace, sipping slow, letting the warmth sink into me. My laptop sat on the table, and curiosity tugged. I flipped it open, connected to the villa's Wi-Fi, and searched Viridian Heights news. It didn't take long. Headlines screamed, "Engagement party ends in chaos. Local businessman's double life exposed." A blurry photo of Mara, red-eyed, ducking into a car. Ethan's name tied to alleged infidelity and public meltdown. Chris's husband had posted online too. A furious rant, receipts attached, time-stamped hours after my tip. The dominoes had fallen, just like I'd planned. I closed the laptop, leaning back with a smirk I couldn't hold in. They'd thought I'd stay quiet, thought I'd fade into the background of their shiny new life. Instead, I'd torn it apart, piece by piece, move by move. Mara's tears wouldn't fix this. Ethan's threats wouldn't reach me. They'd built their castle on lies, and I'd kicked it down, walking away before the dust settled. Karma didn't creep in slow this time. It strode in, red dress and all, with a guest list and a jet waiting. The coffee cooled in my hands as I watched the sea roll, endless and steady. I wasn't the same woman who'd lain in that hospital bed, clinging to people who didn't deserve me. I'd shed her, left her behind with every step I'd taken to this moment. Callista wasn't just an escape, it was a beginning. A life I'd claim on my terms, no one else's. I set the mug down, the sun climbing higher, and felt it, peace real in mine. They'd lost. I'd won. And whatever came next, I'd face it standing tall, no apologies, no regrets. Hey, you listening? That's the end of my story, but it's not the end of yours. Ever had someone try to break you, think they could walk all over you and get away with it? Don't let them. Fight back, smart, sharp, your way. Hit that subscribe button, drop a comment with your own revenge tale, and let's keep this fire going.